Thanks for joining me in our study of the scriptures and in our analysis of counter-missionary teaching, this by counter-missionary Rabbi Tovia Singer. We did a whole video about Isaiah 9:5 and Hebrew 9:6 in English and what it's teaching there and the tense of the verbs and whether Christian translations are accurate or honest or not. But I came across another video of Rabbi Singer where he brings this up and makes some very strong claims. So I want to address this and then look into some fascinating things that he says that actually deeply undermine his position. So he's talking about the text in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5 in Hebrew, which says, Ki yeled yulad lanu ben nitan lanu. So a child has been born to us, a son has been given to us. And he's saying, look, Christian translations don't put that in the past tense. They put it in the future because they want you to think it's about Jesus. It was really about a birth at that time. So listen to what he has to say.
This is called theological acrobatics, meaning the church had to change this passage violently in order to get the result that it wanted.
Yeah. And not only did they have to change it violently, according to Rabbi Singer, it was done quite intentionally to trick you, obviously because you can't read Hebrew if you're reading the English, so it's done to trick you like a Las Vegas magic show, here in his own words.
You're going, what's going on here? Well, the answer is, it's like going to Las Vegas and watching a magic show. And you're wondering, how did they cut that? How do they saw that lady in half, divide the two parts, and the feet are still jumping here, and she's there, and then they put it together, and then she jumps out? Well, that's what this is. Okay, this is a magic show you'd see at the Venetian on the Vegas Strip.
All right, so in his mind, this is something done very intentionally with evil intent. In other words, the Christian translators are intentionally deceiving the readers. They know the Hebrew says this, but they're telling you it says the opposite so they can turn this into a messianic prophecy. We'll let him expand on it one more time.
All right, let's go. The way this was done, okay, so this is how, like I'm showing how they saw the lady in half, is that all the verbs in this passage have been changed from what's called the perfect tense into the future tense. That's how this was done, which means that if we're going to go through the Hebrew in a moment, and I'm going to teach you, if you're a Christian, a lot is at stake. I'm going to show you how you can check it out yourself, because it's very important to me that you don't take my word for it. That's how Jews are. We don't want you to take a word for it. We want you to look it up yourself. But you say, Rabbi, how am I going to look it up?
Well, what he says there is accurate. No, not in terms of the intent of the Christians. That's easily explained, the Christian translations. We'll get to in a moment. But yes, the Hebrew, if you just translate it straight, is in the past. Ki yeled yulad lanu ben nitan lanu. So, for example, let's put it up with the New Jewish Publication Society translation side by side. For a child has been born to us, so past tense, a son has been given us, and authority has settled on his shoulders. He has been named, and now we'll come back to that. They translate it one way, the mighty God is plain in grace, the eternal Father, peaceable ruler. That's an unusual translation, suggested that's not known in the history of Jewish interpretation. Rabbi Singer has another take. We'll come back to that in a moment. But yes, anyone that knows Hebrew decently knows that those verbs there are, you would say, in the past tense if we're using English grammatical terms. So why do most Christian translations say a child is born or a child will be born? I'll explain that in a minute. But one more quote from Tovia so that you can see from Rabbi Singer how strongly he feels about this point.
The first the first crime that was, I'm using strong words, but it is a crime to change the word of God. And incidentally, every Christian would agree that if what I'm saying is true, then this is a crime.
He even says this, if he's right about the Hebrew verbs, you should repent as a Christian and serve God. If he's wrong, never listen to his show again. Ooh, He may have just sunk his show with that last line. Why? Because translators understood this as what is called the prophetic perfect, meaning that the prophet sees a future event as if it's already past, that a prophet speaks of something in the future as if it's already happened, hence uses past tense language, speaking about a future event. Because many Christian translators see this as a prophecy of the birth of the Messiah. Therefore, they say this is the prophetic perfect. The prophet sees it as if it already happened. Now, I agree with Rabbi Singer. It's better to translate as it is, and then we can interpret it as prophetic perfect. In other words, translate it as a child has been born. And I believe in context, that's what it's talking about. A child has been born that with messianic expectations who does not live up to them. Hence, we see this as a messianic prophecy. But the translators weren't trying to pull the wool over your eyes. They just understood that as prophetic perfect. You say that's bogus. I don't accept that. Okay, let me show you where the rabbis do the exact same thing. How's that? How's that? So we go over to Numbers chapter 24. Numbers chapter 24, verse 17. So this is Balaam, pagan prophet, but being used to speak God's words. Erenu velo ata, ashrenu velo karov. What I see for them is not yet. Or I see him, but it's not yet. What I behold will not be soon. Then it says this, Darach kochav miyakov. A star rises. No, not rises. Not rises. Rose. Rose. Ask Tovia Singer. Ask Rabbi Singer. What is the tense of that verb there? Exact same as what we saw in Isaiah 9:5 in terms of perfect tense. A star rose. Translated it. Why isn't this translated accurately? Because it's prophetic perfect. Because it's speaking about something in the future as if it already happened. I see that I see this has happened. It's still future, right? So not rises, but rose. This is a Jewish translation I'm pointing to, right? Darach kochav mi'Yaakov, a star rises from Jacob. No, rose. A scepter comes forth from Israel. No, v'kam shevet m'Yisrael. No, not comes, has come. And it smashes. Machatz, past tense. It smashed the brow of Moab, the foundation of all children of Seth. All right, so let's take a look at some Jewish traditions and see how they understand this passage. Let's look first at the Targum. All right, so let's look at Targum Jonathan, and beginning with the words Chazite v'lo cha'an, Sechite v'lo yitoi kariv. So I have seen him, but he's not here now. I've looked at him, but he is not near. And then it says this, Chad Yukum Malcha Miyakov. When the king arises from Jacob, future. The Hebrew darach, which is past, is translated with the Aramaic Yukum, future. V'yitrabah. And when he's anointed, future. And what does the Targum say? It's about the Messiah. Here, I'll read an English translation of the Targum. I've seen him, but he's not here now. I've looked at him, but he's not near. When the king arises from Jacob and the Messiah of Israel is anointed, he will slay the nobles of Moab and will rule over all mankind. So the Targum is doing exactly what Rabbi Singer accused the Christian translations of doing. It's taking the past and putting it in the future. Why? Because it believes it's a messianic prophecy. You say, yeah, but the text tells us it's not for near. Exactly. And it can use past language to convey that. This is not a secret. This is not, I'm the only one in the world that knows this and I just revealed it. No, this is known. Why didn't Rabbi Singer tell you that in the video? Why didn't he talk to you about the prophetic perfect? Why didn't he talk to you about the way the Targum, the ancient Aramaic Jewish paraphrase translation, understands this? And how about the Septuagint? The Septuagint for the Torah, which is recognized and esteemed by traditional Jews. All right. So let's put up the Septuagint for those that can read Greek. All right. And for those who can't, then rather than me not giving a good pronunciation of the Greek along the way, let's just read the English. I will point him, but not now. I bless him, but he draws not near. A star shall rise. All right? Anastasetai. A star shall rise out of Jacob. A man shall spring out of Israel. So here, the Targum and the Septuagint, the oldest Jewish translations of the Torah, take the verses, which in Hebrew are perfect, past tense, exactly the same as Isaiah 9, okay? Except those are passive verbs, is born, is given, or has been born, has been given. But it's the exact same, quote, tense, if you like, past, perfect. Exact same thing here. And how do they translate it? They translate it in the future. And here, let's look at some rabbinic interpretation. We'll look at Ramban. And what does he say? We'll put it up for those that want to look at the Hebrew first, all right? And he's commenting on Darach Kochav Miyakov. So the star has stepped forth from Jacob, all right? And he says, Bavor ki HaMashiach yikabetz nidchei Yisrael miksei haaretz. And he goes on. He's saying this is about the Messiah. So I'll read an English translation from a Jewish website. Because the Messiah will gather the dispersed of Israel from all the corners of the earth. Balaam compares him metaphorically to a star that passes through the firmament from the ends of heaven. So it's, and then it says, just as it said, meaning about the Messiah, behold, there came of the clouds of heaven, one like a son of man. Son of man! Daniel 7. It's saying that Numbers 24 is referring to the same one that's going to come in the future in the clouds of heaven, like the son of man. Sound familiar? But the Hebrew is past tense. This is not some new revelation. And it's Christian translators who knew this, thought the same thing's happening here in Isaiah, the 9th chapter. How about Rashbam? Speaking about the words, all the sons of Seth, all the sons of Shet, the Fihap Shot, according to the plain meaning, Zeh Melech HaMashiach. This is talking about King Messiah. Here's an English translation from a Jewish website. According to the plain meaning, a reference to the Messiah, that is the words, Darach Kochav Miyakov. A scepter, step forth, a star, step forth from Jacob. Wow. So this whole thing that if he's wrong, don't listen to his show again. Well, did he tell you that this phenomenon occurs elsewhere? Did he tell you that this prophetic perfect is something that is known even in rabbinic literature, even in Jewish translations? Why not? Because it was undermining the whole point he's trying to make. Now, one last thing that's fascinating. The Targum, trying to get away from the names of the child, including mighty God, or it's not like Eliyahu, my God is Yahweh, my God is the Lord. It's not anything like that. It says that the child will have these names, including Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace. So the Targum tries to say it like this, that the one who is the mighty God, the wonderful counselor, the everlasting Father, he will call Hezekiah the Prince of Peace. It's grammatically convoluted. And that's why outside of very traditional Jewish translations, you'll never see it. And it makes no sense for all these things to be said about God. God who is this, calls this one so-and-so. Even though the Targum recognizes it's speaking about the Messiah here at Isaiah, going back to Isaiah, the 9th chapter. But Rabbi Singer doesn't follow the Jewish Targum there. He says the names are about the child. Listen to what he says.
Now, at first glance, they look like divine names, and they are. But people go, oh, he's called, let's just take the most notable, because just for time, he's called the Mighty God. People go, Mighty God, who's given such a name? Well, names in scriptures, almost always, Jewish names, names of kings, are almost always divine names. It doesn't mean they're divine. It means that these are people who represented, who were agents, who were proper messengers of God. The name Hezekiah, or Chizkiyahu, Hamelech, which means the king. Okay, the word melech means king, both in Jewish, actually, is the same in Arabic. But you know what Chizkiyahu means? You know what Hezekiah means? It means, look it up, Google it, I don't know, wherever you get your information. It means the mighty God. His name, Chesio, literally means, Chazak means mighty, Yahu, God. So that's the answer to your question.
Ooh. Really, really poor understanding of the name. First, it's not mighty God, but it's better to understand it as Yahweh strengthens in terms of the name Hezekiah. But even if you want to say it's God is mighty, etc., which is really it's more likely that the Lord strengthens. Put that aside. Everyone agrees that Sar Shalom is about the king, that he's called Prince of Peace. The Targum says Prince of Peace. Not only so, Ibn Ezra and the Talmud differ with Rabbi Singer. And they say the names are actually about the child. Look it up. If you don't believe me, look it up. If you think I'm making this up, especially if you're a traditional Jew, you probably know it by heart. Look at what Ibn Ezra says. The name's about the child. Look at where the Talmud says the name's about the child. And they interpret it. They interpret El Yibor, mighty God, to somehow describe the child. I say, plain meaning of the text, that the names are all about the child, Peliuetz El Gibor Aviad Sar Shalom, that they are all names given to him that describe him in a way that is greater than could be with any regular human being, that can only be fulfilled through the Messiah. Now, when they spoke them, they may have understood them in a lesser way than their fullness, as the prophet was giving the message. But just as he is Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace, he is mighty God. So the names are about the child. It is not God that's called Prince of Peace there, but the child. And you'll see that in traditional Jewish interpretation, left and right. It's the child who's called Sar Shalom. He's not just called Prince of Peace. He's also called Mighty God. Why? Because he's the Messiah, the Son of God. And this is one of the reasons that we believe that the Messiah is God incarnate, because the Hebrew Bible tells us so. You know, when I came to faith in Jesus, Yeshua, I was just 16 years old. I knew very little Hebrew, very little of the Bible. Immediately, my dad asked me to talk to the local rabbi, who was a brilliant man. He introduced me to other rabbis. Before you know it, I'm talking to ultra-Orthodox rabbis that have been studying Hebrew all their lives, and I barely even know the alphabet. And they threw so many questions at me. I was determined, I just need to know the truth. As a Jew, I want to be obedient to God and honor God. If I'm wrong about this faith in Jesus thing, then I'll abandon it. And if I'm right, I don't care if the Jewish community rejects me. I have to be obedient to God as a Jew, as a son. But the more I studied, the more I dug, even got a PhD in Near Eastern languages and literatures at New York University, and spent hundreds, probably thousands of hours interacting with counter-missionaries and rabbis and other religious Jews and Jews who didn't believe. The more I studied, the clearer it was Jesus, Yeshua, is the Messiah of Israel and the Savior of the world. And what I wanted to do was be in a position to help you in your questions, your studies, your wondering. So we put together 5 volumes. I worked on these for years. 5 volumes, each of them tackling different areas. Volume 1 of Answering Jewish Objections to Jesus deals with general and historical objections. Volume 2, Theological Objections. Volume 3, Messianic Prophecy Objections. Volume 4, Objections based on the New Testament. Volume 5, Objections based on Rabbinic Tradition. You'll find comprehensive answers to so many questions that have come your way. And the more you study, the more you'll see Jesus, Yeshua, is the Messiah of Israel.